I know we've only known each other for 4 weeks and 3 days, but to me, it seems like 9 weeks and 5 days.
All right, everybody. Welcome, all my garden enthusiasts and passionate plant people to the Sunday edition of Let's Get Growing here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch, and I'm your host today. So great to have you here with me here. And we've got a great show for you today. Today is the third Sunday of the month. And then on the third Sunday of the month, I invite my good friend Marc Boucher-Colbert to join with me as a co-host as we host a monthly gardening book club. And this has been fun for us this year. We're just having so much fun getting to really enjoy some of these books and all of these great authors that are joining with us here on the show to kind of review and talk about all of their books. Like we're going to get to talk to today Christy Wilhelmi. Christy Wilhelmi is the author of the book Garden Variety. Garden Variety is, a little trip into fiction for us here on our Garden Book Club this month. She wrote this really great novel, Garden Variety, following Lizzie in the Vista Mar Community Garden, and it's just really great. It's really fun. It's full of some really great characters. A community garden, for one, is just really awesome too. I really like that. I really love community gardens. I've been growing in community gardens myself here locally as well too, and I really encourage people, especially those of us in small space gardening, to garden in community gardens. So this is a really fun book, delving into a particular community garden with a particular neighbor and a particular issue that they have to face, and it's really a fun read. And we're going to talk all about that today with Christy Wilhelmi here a little bit later on in the show. So definitely stay tuned for that. And real quick here at the top of the show, happy Father's Day to all of you fathers out there. Really great special day for me as well too. Father's Day, uh, well, it was actually 28 years ago, but 29 years ago on this date was probably one of the most special days in my life. My daughter Samantha was born 29 years ago today, June 16th, 1995, and that was Father's Day was her first birthday, actually. So it's kind of fun for us every now and then. Father's Day lines up with her birthday, and it just so happens to be this year. So it was her first birthday. I think there was like the eighth birthday. I know her 18th birthday was on Father's Day, and now her 29th birthday also, as we're getting ready to welcome my first granddaughter, her daughter, coming here soon as well too. So we got special times right now. This is a really special time of year. Not only is it really special as far as Father's Day for all of us who get to celebrate today and all of that, but I also talked to yesterday on the show about how it's kind of also really kind of a special time of the year for gardeners and for us growers. There's this kind of transition happening. The weather's kind of warming up. It's getting sunnier and nicer out and all of that. And we're transitioning from like cooler weather crops and things that we've been growing out of our late winter, early spring, now going into our late spring and summertime. And really, it's just one of those times where if things are just happening just right, we're getting that really kind of just perfect weather, perfect time to be out in the garden, perfect time to really be getting all of those things going and growing for all of our summer crops and all of that too. So yeah, just a really great time of year. It's really awesome, and it's just really awesome to be able to spend that with you all here today as well too on this special day. So if you are here with us right now too, definitely hit that like button and subscribe as well too if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, which I can't believe you haven't already. But if you haven't, definitely subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and then also there's a bell notification, and that'll notify you and let you know of our upcoming videos and our live stream show here, the Let's Get Growing show, and that'll keep you up to date with what we've got growing on here. And also share with your friends, let everybody know. We like to get the word out, make sure that we get more and more people joining with us here on our Saturday and Sunday show. We're here both Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And it's we're just having really great fun here each and every show, whether it's our Saturday show and our featured guest interviews, or getting to follow some of our great guests that we've had. Like actually yesterday we had a really, really great conversation with Leo Carver. He wrote a book called Growing Consciousness, and we really delved into the spiritual side of gardening and just really had a wonderful conversation of just how we really kind of connect spiritually with nature and all of that, and especially using our garden as that centerpiece in a way too. And it's really kind of plays an important role with our whole well-being. A garden brings us nutrition, but it then also brings us a good sense of peace of mind as well. And we really delved really deep into that subject yesterday. It was a really awesome conversation. And then we also had the Are You Following Me segment, and we were following yesterday Paul Chad Hughes from Backyard Garden Pro. Really great to have him on the show and be able to introduce him to everybody there. Paul just as a great following on Facebook, and does some really great gardening, and we got to talk all about some really fun stuff. And he took a trip to Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company's main site over in Missouri, their farm, and it's like a little city, and I've always wanted to go there, and we talked a little bit about that was really fun. And so go back and check that out yesterday. That was a really great fun show. And then really I've also got to let you know too, last Saturday was an amazing show. This was probably our biggest show of the year. We had with us Mark Valencia from Self-Sufficient Me on with us, and that was just a really awesome, inspiring conversation. So go back and check that one out as well too, and all of the great fun things that we've got growing on here on the show. Just really, really awesome awesome people that we get to meet here on the show, and then get to have you all be a part of that conversation. Makes it just even better here on these live streams. And also a big huge shout out to all of you though too who are watching our replay right now. One of the great things about doing the live streams on YouTube is that they're also available for everybody at any time whenever you want to listen or watch our show. So thank you all to you who watch us on our replays, and definitely get into the comment section there. Let me know you're here. Let me know what you've got growing on. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you got any suggestions for any future guests or anything else at all. And that also goes for all of you who are joining with us here live too. Ask any questions or comments right there in the chat, and we just might feature those on the show, especially questions for our guests coming up too. So definitely drop some questions in there, and we'll try to fit those in our conversation. And that's just, again, another part of doing these live streams that makes it really fun, is to be able to have all of you here along with us and joining in on the conversation. So let's jump in here and see who we do have with us today. It looks like for sure we've got our good friend and moderator Jay Dixon, the greatest moderator on YouTube, joining us from Ontario, Canada, and really helping us out there in the chat box, and jumping in with all sorts of great links and information and things. If we're talking about certain subjects and all of that, keep an eye out there in that chat box for a link, because Jay will be dropping in those links and helping us out to get further information, or even links for some of our guests and different things as well too. So awesome to have Jay here with us. And happy Father's Day again. Awesome to have you here with us. And again too, we've got Adam Burley, excellent, joining us from just right up the road from me, Central Point, Oregon. Adam's just right up the road there. Awesome to have you with us, Adam. Thank you very much. Riverdale Gardens. Hey, y'all. How you doing? Awesome to have you back here with us. Thanks for joining with us today. Awesome. Let's see here. Okay, excellent, excellent. So yeah, we've got a really great show here for you all today. As I mentioned, we've got Christy Wilhelmi, garden variety. We'll be talking about here in just a little bit on the show. Um, and again, too, happy Father's Day to everybody. And let's see here. I want to make sure that something there. Yep, for sure. So I think what we'll do here, real quick, in just a minute, I want to kind of talk just a little bit about something I kind of mentioned about just a little bit too, and it is kind of sort of what we're talking about today is through our book in a sense too, is this the central uh, um, you know theme of the book, or theme is centered around a community garden. And I just really love and enjoy the ideas of community gardens are really, I think, are important, especially for those of us who do urban gardening and we're in the city and we might really be limited on space. And this is one of those things that through my channel, and I like to encourage people to be able to kind of be inventive and to to kind of really think out some spaces, because there's a lot of things that we can do in spaces we might not normally think about. But then again, some of us are really just limited. Imagine being someone who just really has to live in an apartment, that doesn't even have really a balcony, and is even like south facing, or north facing, so they're not getting any of that good sunlight or anything. And could you imagine that? So if there are situations where it is just really to grow anything and do that. And if you're in one of those situations, I really always encourage people to start looking into local community gardens that might be around you. Usually in most cities, there's usually some sort of community garden that is, usually in some sort of doable distance for anybody living in a city, from what I've found so far. But there might also be some of those situations and cases where maybe there isn't one that really is in a comfortable distance from where you might live, or where a lot of people might live. If you don't have a community garden that's particularly local, but there might be a good space that you might be able to convince your city to let you use, or convince some other business or some other thing like that, in order to help kind of maybe even let you use and sponsor some sort of community garden space. There's all sorts of really great ways to look at, and resources within cities and municipalities. You can usually maybe even go check with your local city councilman and that sort of thing as well too, to help maybe even get you started, where to get started, and those sort of things. But I encourage people too at that point is to get active and maybe get out there and start some community gardens. In fact, it was because we didn't have, I mean, there was a community garden. It's just a little bit further away. I could have walked to it, really would have just been maybe a little bit of further a walk, or maybe, for a bicycle, maybe just a little bit easier to get, but it was a little further away. But me and a few other people locally here around my neighborhood thought that our local park up here, we have a park called Union Park, would be a good spot for a community garden. And we helped organize and get that one all set up there. I mean, I didn't play a very big role. I did help in setup and getting things moving, helping kind of like we did some door to door to kind of get people to know about all of that sort of stuff. I mean, a lot of the real working of paperwork and getting all that sort of stuff was done by a couple of other people. But I think ultimately this is a great idea, is to get out there and start more community gardens. And if there's more people out there who can get more community gardens and more people growing, then it's one of those things that also comes back to something that we were talking a little bit about yesterday on yesterday's show with our guest Leo, is that the garden brings a lot to us individually. I love my being out in my own garden space and getting what I get from it, as we were talking on that spiritual end that the garden gives you. But also one of the things that is really great and awesome is to garner all of that knowledge and all that sort of stuff that you get from your garden and all that space, and then share it with others. And that was kind of what the adventure for us at Union Park Garden was, to get out there and share our gardening and get more people to be able to grow themselves and grow food for themselves, or just have that experience and then bring community together, and then have, and it's really, really fun to bring all sorts of people together and grow together and do all sorts of things. I spent several springs and summers over there growing and gardening, and I was saying yesterday I got to get back into that and think about getting back in there and doing that. But then also there's another new community garden that just opened up just a little further down at another park, and I was thinking, what, maybe, what I'll do is go there, maybe help fill some space, and maybe go out and do some things like I did similar with the other thing, and just hopefully maybe kind of help encourage people along and all of that. And if you have that opportunity out there to do that, I highly, highly encourage it. All right, all right. So let's get moving on here. We've got to introduce today. I think this is one of the things I think I love the most about doing the third Sunday of the month, and doing the monthly book club, is that I get to do it with my good friend Marc Boucher-Colbert, and he does a segment for us each Sunday called In the Garden. But on the third Sunday, we get to have him here with us live. So let's get started with In the Garden. All right, all right. Let's welcome Marc Boucher-Colbert, our good friend MBC, to the show. Great to have you here with us again today. It's another third Sunday, and quickly, happy Father's Day, man.
Hey, thanks. Right back at you, Enoch. Yeah. It's a great day.
Yeah. Excellent, excellent. So awesome again to be here again, third Sunday of the month. It's our monthly book club. We've already had a couple of great books so far, and we're digging deep into a really great book today. And it's just really awesome to be able to do that this year, right?
Oh, we're on a tear, I feel. I mean, I just feel like we've had some great books. We're talking to some great people. I mean, we started with Zakos there and her book, The Foraging, How to Forage Wild Foods and Not Die.
Yeah.
That with Tony Jones, Alan Zakos, and then Tony Jones.
O'Neill, yeah.
Tony O'Neill, thank you. My name.
No problem. It's all right.
Simplify Vegetable Gardening. That was really cool too.
Yeah.
And Tony was across the pond there. He was in England, so we got to connect with him intercontinentally. And now, with Christy today and the garden variety, that's going to be, like you say, it's a whole different, it's a shift. It's into fiction, which is, just a different way of looking at things. And I'm just really interested to explore that with Christy. So that'll be really, really stimulating.
Yeah. I really love this book. It's been one of my favorites since I found it. And real quick, story too, as well, because you were kind of behind the scenes with me before we got the show started last year. I discovered the book because I was out just basically kind of doing some research for the show, because I was trying to think of what would be a good name for the show. And one of the ideas I had was, let's call the show the Garden Variety Show. So I was out there looking at how is this term being used, and looking around online, and then I found this book, and I'm so glad I did, because ultimately we did come up with a great name for the show. And I think it's perfect. It's perfect. And then along the way, ended up finding this really awesome treasure. So it's really awesome we get to talk about that. But today, Marc, right now in this segment, we're talking about In the Garden. We need to get in the garden. One of the reasons why I asked you to do In the Garden with MBC. And the reason why I asked you to do In the Garden is you do so many really cool things in the garden space. I mean, you're up on a rooftop of a 4-story building in downtown Portland, gardening for a restaurant, Noble Rot. You're out at a Montessori school teaching gardening to school children of all ages, just doing some really awesome stuff. And then all of that, you do have a pretty awesome, cool urban garden there, right there down in Portland as well too. So you got lots of great things growing on. So what's growing on in the gardens this week?
Oh man, as a gardener, it feels like my head's kind of exploding. It's just such a big crunch time. I was just out at my school garden this morning. I'm still planting tomatoes. I still got a bunch of tomatoes in the greenhouse. I'm trying to get those out. We do dryland tomatoes. I may have mentioned that last time.
Yeah.
We use wide spacing, and after, rely on the rain from the spring, and then after that, no irrigation, and try to keep the area completely mulched or weed free.
Oh,
So
wow.
we've had good success with that. Very low water, obviously no additional water. What can be stored in the soil. So that's cool, and I'm still fine tuning what varieties do really well with that and what not so well. So just getting those tomatoes in. I've been planting my cucurbits, starting the cukes from seeds. I got some winter squash in the ground that are already spreading. I just planted some watermelon out at school in these cool raised keyhole beds. So a keyhole bed, I don't know if the listeners are familiar with that, is kind of a bed that it's a kind of a circle that you can walk into.
Yeah.
So you imagine an old-fashioned lock with that circular keyhole and a little space to get into that circle. So when you can stand in the middle of the bed, and the bed kind of encircles you, is around you. So we built those up so they're about waist high, which is really, I got to tell you, waist high gardening is where it's at. I think if we could just make all gardening waist high, that'd be so freaking easy.
Oh, those are my favorite bed. I have 2 of them that I built specifically for that out in the back patio, and they are my favorite beds. It's just so perfect. No bending, no all.
Yeah, I mean, it's like kitchen counter. Just make our whole gardens that high.
Yep.
We have 6 of those beds at the Noble Rod too, and they're 42 inches high. They're just a little bit more than waist high, but they're just so wonderful to garden at. Speaking about Noble Rot, I put in some new herbs this week that I'm really excited about. Some they're all a little bit familiar. I've grown them in the past, but I haven't grown them for many years. We like the exotic up at the Noble Rot, or the interesting, or something that's gonna be a little bit out of the ordinary. So I found this French sorrel, which is really lovely. It has small, broad leaves with some really nice flair at the bottom. And for people who haven't tasted sorrel, it's just a pungent, sour, nice lemony flavor. We have some standard green garden sorrel, and that kicks like crazy. But the leaves are very big. These French sorrel are smaller leaves, and they're more suited to like tossing in a salad and just getting that nice lemony
punch.
So I'm really excited about that. Put in some more. We had some Vietnamese coriander, sometimes called rau ram, I think. That's a really intriguing taste as well. Again, like just something that's a little bit out of the standard American palate, and speaking something that's
even more unique than cilantro itself.
I'm sorry?
You said coriander, right? So, I mean, it's even more unique than the regular coriander.
Yeah, it's got a slightly different flavor profile. Some notes that are a little bit the same, but some slight differences there.
Nice.
And then the one that I'm really excited about, and this blew my mind on 2 levels. This is called variegated society garlic. Tulbagia, I think is the genus name. But it's a South African plant, as far as I remember from the last time I planted it. I planted some straight up society garlic, got strappy green leaves, resembles in almost every fashion garlic chives. Not quite as thick as garlic chives and with a different flower, but same basic flavor profile. But this stuff is variegated. So this has an incredible like pink edging along the outer edge of that strappy leaf. I can't take my eyes off it. It's so exciting. I found it at my local nursery, one of my local nurseries, I think Log House Plants in Oregon, a really progressive, leading the way nursery with lots of new plants. They grow it. If you can get it, variegated society garlic. I also take the leaves are a little bit tougher, tiny bit stringier than regular garlic chives, but these ones had, at least the one I tasted, besides the garlic, had this like smoky flavor that I literally thought I was eating a piece of bacon with garlic all over it. It was like, what the heck am I eating here? This is amazing. So that's been blowing my mind.
That's great.
So variegated society garlic, if you can get your hands on it and plant a bunch of that in your garden, it's great stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get some of that from you.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how the chefs, that's part of the fun of the rooftop garden is I do my little thing and make my contribution, and then they take it and braise it even higher, and it's
Yeah.
always fun to see how they're going to interact with some of this stuff too.
Yeah, that is kind of cool though too, is that you're presenting them like the paints. If they were a painter, you're presenting them the different colors of paints, and then they take them and make what they make out of them and all of
Or
that.
if
It's
you
really
go to the
awesome.
zoo, and this is I don't want this analogy to extend too far, but if you go to the zoo, like you go see the tiger cage or something, and you see like they put a few balls in there to keep the tigers interested.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
feel like there's these tigers down in the kitchen. They have these roving imaginations, and I got to throw them a ball every once in a while to keep the interest high.
Yeah,
So
right.
I'm
Exactly.
just I'm tossing something out there and waiting for them to discover it. Sometimes I don't even tell them I put something new up there. I just want to see, like, are those guys looking at the garden? Are they really carefully looking around? I want to make sure they're looking around. I want to put some surprises up there.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's one of the things I think I really like about visiting up there too, is that you're always showing me and surprising me with these just flavors and tastes that I've just never tasted before, and just to imagine what they get to do with that when they're in the kitchen and curating all of these really great dishes and everything. Just got to be amazing, and it's such a great opportunity for you as a gardener though too, to be able to do something that's really kind of at that level.
Totally fun. I treasure every moment up there. And while I'm talking about it, if any buddies who's listening right now wants to suggest something, a really cool herb or a really cool plant, just throw it in the comments. I'm always open to new ideas, and
Yeah.
always looking for that new thing or that old thing that I haven't tried yet.
Yeah, that's the thing I always say is suggestions are always welcome. I love to hear those sort of things, and definitely, yeah, let us know those sort of things that you really like to grow too. You might have some great suggestions of things that we haven't got to try before, so definitely do that.
And
Right
so
on.
let me mention one more thing in the garden.
Awesome.
For at least for us Pacific Northwest gardeners, we are actually right on the edge of winter gardening.
All
So
right.
planted Brussels sprouts from seed a couple of 10 days ago now, and they're
Yeah.
up and doing pretty good. And it's not going to be, I got to plant some sprouting broccoli pretty soon. And
Yeah.
then, in another month, it's probably going to be some kale. And so it's like, you're always like living ahead, at least a season, if not 2 seasons ahead as a gardener.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
it's hard in the thick of it right now because there's so much to do. There's irrigation that's starting, there's weeding, et cetera, trellising, but you
Yeah.
also got to live in a couple of seasons ahead and getting ready for the winter. So
Yeah, exactly. Especially for those ones that are going to take a bit longer for sure.
you can see why my brain's exploding. I'm in like 4 seasons at once.
Another good one is like leeks too.
Oh
Leeks,
yeah,
I found that they work the best if we get them start at a similar time of Brussels sprouts.
yeah,
Although and I always say it's the Brussels. If you're trying to grow Brussels sprouts, and I've done it successfully a couple of times, but each time it's like trying to run this kind of summer gauntlet, because it takes such a long time to grow, and they really love that cool season,
yeah,
especially our Pacific Northwest cool season like we get.
yeah.
And so I started them, like you said, around this time. I've got mine out there already going, but we got to make it through the summer gauntlet of all the different pests and all the different things that just love brassicas and especially those Brussels sprouts, aphids, whiteflies, everything is just coming out to get your Brussels sprouts, man. And if you can get them through all of that and the heat and get them to the cool season, then you're off and running. And I'm telling you, they're just so great.
Yeah, the hot weather, man. When you say white flies, I get a shudder because
Exactly.
we've had some really hot summers where I just like touch the Brussels sprout and it's like a giant cloud of those dang white flies just flies up, and it's like, oh God, I hate these things.
They're the worst. Yeah. It's like a cloud of dust almost. And it's just, they're just, it is. They're a nightmare.
Yeah, you're giving me nightmares, Enoch. We better change the subject.
A lot of pests, though, that are destroying our crops are just nightmares, though, too. I tell you. Squash bugs. Oh, I'll tell you what.
Those things are creepy, too. The way they move, too, it's kind of just, oh, God, it's weird.
And the way they multiply, too, though. It's amazing.
Right?
Oh, my. Yeah. Right on, Mark. Well, this is awesome. Great time in the garden with you there this week. And let's see here. Get ourselves ready here and move on with the show here. And we'll invite our Book of the Month Club here in just a moment. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Any moment.
Hey, gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits.
All right. Here we are back at it again. Third Sunday of the month. Each and every month we do our monthly book club, and we've got a really, really great book for everybody today. We're featuring Garden Variety from Christy Wilhelmi. Just a really great novel. I mean, a fictional tale, Mark. This is such a great little turn for us. And like you said, going in, I thought this would be a great way to kind of mix things up a little bit. A lot of garden books are, how to garden or other sorts of types of cool nonfiction subjects. It's very rare you get to jump into a fictional tale, right?
Yeah, very rare, very rare. And yet there's a lot of gardening info packed into this book. So I want to unpack that with Christy, how she held on to this balance between keeping an interesting storyline, yet also telling us things like what are Oyas and what is nitrogen fixation and climate change. She worked all that other stuff.
Oh, it's so great, isn't it?
It's really good. Yeah, she did a great job. My hat's off to her.
All right. Well, let's get this started. Our monthly book club. All right, everybody. Let's welcome Christy Wilhelmi to the show.
Hi there. Hey, guys. How's it going?
There we go.
So nice to meet you.
Thanks
for being with us today.
Nice meeting you, Mark. I have not spoken with you before, so I'm looking forward to this conversation between all three of us.
I know.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Christy, for showing or joining with us today and for our third monthly book club for the Let's Get Growing show. I just really love your book, and I thought it was such a great addition here as we're getting this book club really just kind of into gear. I will mention one quick thing here before we move on, though, too. I thought was really kind of fun and interesting, and I won't mention really how we figured it out, but you are on the show last year, literally almost to the day. I mean, Christy joined with us on our show last year on June 17th. Today is June 16th. We almost got you to the day.
Yeah, that was funny because I was looking for a link to share on my social media, and your website had the date, which I was like, why is it that date? That's not what we talked about. And when I contacted you, you said that you haven't been using the website, basically.
Right.
And that I was the last guest before that started to happen.
We've been working on updating it for a while now, right?
Yeah. And I didn't get a chance. I was listening in a little bit before I came on the show, and I didn't realize that the way you found me was because you were researching titles for the show. So I feel like I'm really lucky that you found me that way. Thanks.
Yeah. It's kind of great how that kind of happened. That was kind of the original idea, as Mark knows. I went with that for a little while, was the Garden Variety show. But then I was like, it's really used in a lot of places. In fact, there were a couple of podcasts even, so
yeah.
So I was like, you know what, let's find something that's just a little bit more unique and more us. And we just kind of went with our tagline, let's get growing, right? Why not?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And since we've talked, I just want to say real quick, because I have my books behind me, and
Yeah.
since I was on last year, Garden Variety has come out in Spanish for the Spain audience, and so that's what the yellow cover is behind me. So it's the
That's
same book,
awesome.
but in Spanish.
You know, that's interesting, because I was looking at Goodreads last night and I did notice there was some people who commented only in Spanish. I'm like, that's intriguing that they didn't leave their comment in English, but now that makes sense.
Yeah, I haven't read those comments. I'll have to go look at that.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
That's right on. Opening this great book up to a whole nother audience, you know, which is really awesome. And again, too, you just really kind of, you know, stumbled into something really kind of fun and unique for us gardeners, you know, a really kind of fun fictional tale, you know, centered around, again, too, a community garden. You know, really kind of what I was kind of talking about a little bit today earlier in the show as well, is that, you know, I think community gardens are really an important thing for a lot of communities and those of us who live in cities, for sure, you know. And that's, I think, one of the great things about this book is, as I've found out in my community garden adventures, that there are just so many different personalities, so many different things going on within a community garden. And I think you just really capture that really well in this book.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, but I've been part of a community garden for 25 years, so it would really it's an integral part of my gardening experience, and so I felt like there needed to be a story about that experience, because there are more than 150 community gardens in Los Angeles, here where I live in California, and in, you know, every part of the country, there's going to be a community garden for people who live in apartments or condos or don't have enough sunlight to grow food. So I'm always excited to share, kind of preach the gospel of community gardening.
Exactly.
Yeah, one of the things, you know, bringing that to the fore with this book, I think is kind of sends a message across the U.S. to cities and to citizens to say, hey, this is a part of our urban fabric, and this can be a part of our urban fabric to the people who don't have it.
Yeah, it's true. And there's some documentation out there for how to start a community garden if you don't have one where you live. There are a lot of community gardens at churches. I've found, especially here, when we had our drought and churches were taking out their lawns, and instead of putting some other plants in that did nothing, they decided to build community around it and put in vegetable beds for people to in their parish to grow food. So it really works into community. I mean, you know, community garden works into community really, really well.
Yeah. And it's a good way to connect with your community and connect with people who are living around you, you know, and especially, you know, as disconnected we can be, and especially in urban environments, for sure. So community gardens are really great for that as well. And also, I like you mentioned churches too. That was one of those ones I didn't mention too, but there are lots of different types of opportunities and things that we can look at and search for in order to kind of maybe grow more community gardens out there and get more of them. I mean, 150 is a pretty good amount, but Los Angeles is a pretty darn big city, so there's even some more too.
Yeah, it really is a big space. There's more than 10 million people living in just Los Angeles and its surrounds, you know, LA County. So 150 gardens is almost enough for everyone.
So I'll start with my question for you too, then. Let's start right then with the community garden. This book is inspired by a community garden that you garden in, right?
That's correct. Yes. I garden at Ocean View Farms Organic Community Garden in Mar Vista, California. And it's got more than 500 plots and twice as many members.
And twice as many members?
Yeah.
Are people sharing plots?
So I think, so I should clarify, there are 400 and something actual members, and then there are household members who join along with them. And so it's more than 1,000 people actually go up there and garden.
Oh,
yeah.
That's awesome. So making it a family thing.
Yep.
That's great.
And people they bring their kids. There are a lot of little kids running around learning whether they're diggers or pullers, you know, because little kids are one or the other. So it's fun to see. And we share our space. Well, we use the slope of this 14-acre parcel, and the flat part of the parcel is the Little League baseball field. So there's always families up around there all the time anyway.
Oh, that's awesome.
One of the things that strikes me is just having a little familiarity with community gardens, and also then just reading all the things that happen that you bring to light. It's kind of the community garden is a model for society, right? I mean, it's like you get diversity of people using the community garden, you get celebrations, you get fights, you get a kind of a policing with the citations and all this stuff. You have to eject some people. And so I just wonder, like, community gardens, what's your experience been in terms of, is this kind of a school for citizenship? Are we raising better kinds of people? Are we helping to improve society by community gardens and all the dynamics that go on there?
I hope so. I think that what goes on in a community garden is, at least here in Los Angeles, it is a reflection of the community that you live in outside, and so it'll be as diverse as your community if you let it. It'll be as, and diverse in terms of ethnicity, socioeconomic status, political spectrum. Gardening crosses all the boundaries. And so it's a place where people come together, and most people want to forget about their troubles when they come to a garden or when they are gardening. And so people are more inclined to work together than apart. That is not always the case, of course. There are power-hungry people out there, and that happens, as evidenced in Garden Variety and the sequel that I'm working on. But it's something that I feel like it makes people a little more considerate. At least I hope so.
Awesome.
Yeah, that really does make sense. So, all right, Garden Variety is based on a character named Lizzie, and my question is how much of Lizzie, or is this a part of the character, is you yourself? Did you use yourself as a model at all to create Lizzie as a character, or is this an amalgamation of people or those sort of things? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. The main character, Lizzie, is, I tell people, Lizzie is me in my neurotic 20s. Yeah. And I think everyone else in the book is a culmination of there are composite characters who are based on various people who I have met over the years in the community garden experience. And I feel like when you put all of those different personality types together, you're going to get some sparks and some fire and some some animosity, and it's a fun ride.
Yeah. So I mean, so as you're real quick on a follow up is so as you're like developing, so you're in your community garden, I imagine, and you're out gardening and you see something going on and you see some people doing this and that, and all of a sudden something sparks up there and you're like, okay, wait a minute, this is that. Now a character either forms or an instance or something that might happen in the book or whatever based on something they're doing and that sort of thing. So you're just really pulling inspiration right from the garden, right?
Yeah, I have kept a journal, a notepad for my books, and anytime I'm working with my hands in the soil and I realize, oh, there's a lesson in this, either what's happening in the garden, the bugs I'm encountering, or if there's some kind of event that happens at the garden, we're like, oh, we got to write this in somewhere. This has to show up as a scene somewhere. And after years of compiling these little snippets of stories that happened here or there, it turned into Garden Variety.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about making the leap from, you had built up your business, you had written some books, some nonfiction books about gardening, and then you leapt into fiction. I mean, that's not a natural jump for most people. So I'm wondering, and I know Lizzie had a background as a copywriter. So is that something were you already trained in writing? Was that already a passion of yours, professionally or non-professionally? And then, like, how did you convince, William Morrow's a pretty major publishing house. It's like, hey, I'm a kind of a garden nerd. I've written books on gardening, but now let me write you a book on fiction, and will you publish it? How did that happen?
Yeah, I got really lucky, but luck requires hard work. So the funny thing about Garden Variety is that I started writing it way before I ever started Garden Nerd.
Okay.
And I had to put, I wrote the first scene back in 2001. And then I had to put it away for 7 years while I had major life-changing things happen, and, you know, moving, divorce, meeting my future, the love of my life, and remarrying and moving again, and, you know, all of this stuff happening. And then along the way, so Garden Variety got started. Garden Nerd got started. And then I kept working on Garden Variety over the years. And it was always going to be the way that I wanted to write a gardening book. I didn't want to write a nonfiction gardening book. I just wanted to tell gardening lessons through story. And that was going to be it. And then I got hired to write a gardening book, and I was like, oh no. So, I mean, great. Yay, great. So Gardening for Geeks was where I shifted my focus to then. And I wrote an actual gardening book. And after that, when I went back to Garden Variety, I was like, okay, now I need to, you know, I was crossing out all of the lessons, and had to really start developing the storyline and the character development and the personal touches that make fiction what it is. And I think you had asked about whether I was always a writer or not, and how that coordinates with Lizzie's storyline. It is a total coincidence that Lizzie ended up becoming a writer. I had no intention of having her mirror my life, because when I started, I kind of pegged her as a writer, and I was like, yeah, I'm never going to be that kind of writer. So I just didn't. It's like, hey, she writes. And then suddenly I became a writer. So it was one of those things that it sort of developed after the fact. I became a writer after Lizzie was a writer. And I think there were other factors that went into developing her character, as well as the book itself. And I think you asked a third question in there, but I'm not remembering what that was.
Oh, I was saying, and then how did you, as a non-seasoned fiction writer, how did you pitch it to William Morrow, or how did you get them to be like, yeah, I've written a bunch of gardening books, but now I can write a fiction book that people are going to be interested in?
Right. So fiction gets pitched completely differently than nonfiction. With nonfiction, you make an outline and some sample chapter, you know, kind of send them your work. And they're like, oh yeah, well, she looks like an expert. Let's give her a book deal. With that's with nonfiction. With fiction, you have to write the whole thing first. You have to find an agent, and then you have to get that agent to shop it around and find a publisher. Yeah. And I will say this for anyone hoping to do this themselves. I got 89 rejections. 89 rejections. Wow. From agencies before I found my agent. And I was going for 100. So I call that a success. I was going for 100 no's, because you got to get your 100 no's before you get a yes. And so that's where I was going. I was like, all right, I made my spreadsheet. I'd pull, 10 names a week. I'd research who I wanted to send it to in that agency, send it out. And I sent one off in November of 2019, right before Thanksgiving. And I was like, okay, if I don't get any, this batch will bring me to my 100 no's. And after that, I will seek a way to self-publish this on my own. Right. And January 2nd, I got a call from somebody I had sent my manuscript to, and she loved it. And so we worked together from there to do some more revisions. And after that, she started sending it out. And I thought, because finding a home for a book through an agency can take up to 18 months. That's usually what you'll sign a contract for, is 12 to 18 months. And so I let it all go, and I was like, all right, next, what am I doing next? And within 2 months, she called me with a book deal. So I was very excited about that. Wow. And I was, that was a big surprise. And that happened in November of 2020. And so I was on my way. And that's the story.
Yeah, that's kind of
I'm going to put that one in my back pocket. 89 no's before the yes. That's tenacity. That's a good.
That's and that's just to get an agent.
Just to get an agent.
Before you actually then start getting the yes or no's from the publishers.
Correct.
Oh my, that is something else.
That's believing in your vision. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. I'm stubborn, if nothing else.
Yeah.
You got to be, right? If you're going to really put something out there, you really kind of got to be. If you believe in it, you really got to, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that people, not every book fits into a genre very neatly, and this was one of those books where people didn't know what to do with it. They weren't sure how they would market it, and a publisher looks at your book from a marketing perspective first. Like, how would they publish this? What genre would it fit into? How would they market it? And if they don't feel like they could get it out there, then they decline. And that I ran across that a lot of the time, where they just didn't know what they would do with it. Because that's if you're a nerd, you run into this problem a lot.
Yeah.
Right on. So
it's not really like a defined thing on the shelves that you could just reach for.
Yeah. I would mention there is a genre called garden fiction. And when I mentioned it to agents, I'd say, this is garden fiction. I got the biggest head tilts out of that. I'm like, what? Garden fiction? I'm like, it is a thing. It's just that no one's heard of it except us.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. And too, I think I kind of had that same head tilt when I was discovering your book. I mean, it was just like, this is different. This isn't a regular type of garden book that I'm looking to, look at and all of that. But then again, too, as then which really piqued my interest, I get the book, I have to read it, I start reading it, and then I'm like, well, wait a minute, this is a great fictional tale about a community garden. But what's really, really awesome about it is that it is kind of a garden book. And kind of, you mentioned this too, this was kind of what your original intention was to kind of really fit garden lessons into stories. And maybe even talk a little bit more about that and really how that's incorporated into the book, or how you really worked those sort of things in.
Sure. Yeah. It goes back to that list I was talking about in my notebook, where every time I would be working in the garden and would come across something that just made sense as let's talk about this. I think this is a good hands-on garden lesson that would be nice to pepper through the manuscript. So it just flowed from there. And I had a lot more in there, but my editor was like, it's a little too info dumpy right now. We just like take a whole section and pages of here's some gardening information. So I had to narrow it down and thin it out to just the essentials that I felt like would be good for keeping people interested. And I really wanted to reach readers who were not necessarily gardeners. And a lot of the feedback that I get is, I'm not a gardener, but now I want to grow something. And I've done my job. That's what I was setting out to do.
That's a great mission accomplished there, for sure. Encouraging new gardeners to get into growing through this book and this story and all of that. Again, kind of on the idea of the garden lessons and the things that are sprinkled through, I think is also one of the kind of cool aspect of it, is that you're really just kind of taking us through a year, though. You know what I mean? So it's really seasonal too.
Yeah, and it's specifically the Southern California growing season.
Right.
I was listening earlier to what Marc was saying, that you're already planting your brassicas for fall, and we're nowhere near that right now. I just got my tomatoes in recently, and that's going to take us through August, September, October. And then that's when we start putting in our cool season stuff. So I thought most gardening books aren't written for us down here anyway. And so I wanted to highlight the Southern California growing season and how different it is from everywhere else. So following that chronological order of how things grow in Southern California was one of the key frameworks that I structured the book on. Was important to me for that.
Yeah, and some of your characters come from other parts of the country, and then they notice the differences. And I can tell. I'm from the East Coast myself, and my wife's from LA, And so, you know, whenever I'd go, and we live in Portland, Oregon, and whenever we'd go down to LA to visit her folks, I'd be like, oh my, you know, it's like the first time I saw an orange on a tree, I almost laughed. I was like, oh my God, there's an orange.
In December.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how it is. It's weird here. But we love it.
But it's glorious too at the same time. You guys are, and we have a great member of our Facebook group, the Let's Get Growing group, and Wayne lives down there in LA, and he's just all year round. I mean, it's just all year round showing us pictures of things, and we're just all in the group like, oh, come on, Wayne, really? We can't even,
fair.
you know, it's not fair. Exactly.
Yeah. But there is a winter for us, and that's not, it's not technically the winter where like the rest of the world shuts down their garden in winter. For us, our dead zone is August, September, October, really. That's when it's so hot. You can't plant anything new. It won't survive. So that's when we're kind of, I want to say, abandoning the garden for indoor activities to stay cool or going on vacations, or that's kind of when I grab a little bit of respite. And it tires out the soil also. So we have to amend our soil a lot more often than other places. And if it's, if you are growing year round, your soil doesn't get that rest that it does in places where snow and frost come in. So we do have to deal with that. It's not necessarily easier to grow here, but it is nice to have a long growing season. Yeah,
that's interesting. Last night I went down and I just wrote down all your chapter titles, and I'm going to throw you out 6 words that I think are sort of symbols for the book. And then you could just take them. You could take it's author's choice. You can react to any of them and just go off and tell us about them. So I chose weeds, broccoli, but I would also include brassicas because you mentioned kale a lot in the book. But anyway, weeds, brassicas, roses, tomatoes, bud, and compost are my 6 words. And you just take whatever you want and talk about what it means in the book for you, or
there's so many images are evoked by those things. The titles of each chapter are tied into the action that happens in each chapter. I don't know if people pick up on that or not, but there's a lot to glean from that. But composting is a big part of gardening. I think everybody needs to compost, and that will help reduce landfill waste and emissions and all of that stuff. It's also really important for transforming waste into something that's gold for the garden. And that sort of follows the storyline of transforming from being neurotic and or non-committal or angry all the time or power hungry to being the opposite of that, which is accepting, welcoming, birthing into new life, the things that come with that. So I don't know if that's what you were looking for, but that's kind of
that's all.
Yeah, I don't think there was a wrong answer on that one.
I know compost is through the whole thing. That is one of the through lines, obviously in any garden, but in your garden book too. It's like the compost is always being made. There's the compost masters. There's Mike gets the compost first. Notifying about compost. So it's like, that's definitely, it's almost like some of these things are characters in and of themselves. Like the compost is a character.
Yeah, the compost is a character. The garden itself is a character. And I think in book 3 I'm going to pull that out a little bit more.
We're already talking about book 3.
Yeah, I didn't think. Gardeners have to think ahead. So
that's
I'm doing
right.
that.
We talked about it. Yes.
Yeah. It's meant to be a trilogy.
Perfect.
So book 1 is a rom-com. Book 2, I'm not going to say it's a cozy mystery, but I'm saying it has a murder in it.
Woohoo!
And book 3 is going to have some kind of a fantasy component. So
nice.
Have you signed a movie rights already?
No, and my agent is shopping around for someone to turn it into a series. I want to turn it into a TV series. For those who can actually see, this amazing. This is book 2 right here.
Wow.
I'm just putting the finishing touches on it and sending it back to my editor. So
I'm telling you, that would make it really, again, too, it comes down to this idea that you really did taking that centerpiece of a community garden and all of these just characters within it, you know, the different people. And that's what makes a perfect television series, is just the multiplicity of all these different characters and the different things going on and elements that can go in all different directions. And your story just lends perfectly to that idea, I think.
Thank you for saying that. I think so too. And for me, it's all about the cyclical nature of the seasons lends itself perfectly to a series. Also, the fact that it's a community garden, you can have new characters every season.
Oh, yes,
and get rid of old ones. And it's just like, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So, and I have the location where it can be shot. I'm just saying.
You already got it set, right?
Yep.
Might as well have it in the original spot, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a whole
perfectly centered in Los Angeles, and nobody's got to go very far.
I have a lot of evil plans around that.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I love hearing that.
Yeah. Wow, that's exciting. Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah.
And kind of bringing back the idea too, again, real quick, I just want to mention too, that was one of the first times I met you though too, was at Marc and I's favorite event of the year, was the Northwest Flower and Garden show. And I think Marc ended up heading out that day that you were speaking or something. So I ended up getting to go see you, and you were talking about compost.
Oh, it was the composting class.
It was I went and saw your composting class there. I thought it was so wonderful and everything. And I can definitely tell your passion for compost for sure. Which is great.
I get really nerdy about composting because I have, most people do cold composting, and that's fine. That is totally fine. Even if I have 3 different kinds of composting going on here. I have a cold pile, which has, a bunch of scraps and whatnot. I have a hot active batch thermal compost pile, which I monitor and turn and build all at once. And we have the shredder where we shred all our biomass. And I usually do that after pruning all the hedges. And, so it's got more controlled ingredients and it's measured, and the heat builds more quickly. And so you can kill off weed seeds and diseases that way. So there's some things that I will save for that. And then I have the third pile is the lazy pile, where I have piled everything up to shred for the bigger active batch thermal compost pile. And we never quite got there. So it's sitting there breaking down on its own, getting a little bit smaller every month.
It just became its own new experiment, right?
And I actually used it last year because I have been lazy for more than a year. I actually used that pile. We pulled off the top biomass that was still not broken down, and everything underneath it was gorgeous. And I actually filled a Vigo garden planter with mostly that compost, because it was, how Vigo gardens, those metal corrugated beds that with the rounded corners, those take a lot of soil to fill. So we just threw all of that in there, and that filled it about halfway. And then I was able to fill it the rest with some additional soil. And it was just like everything grows like magic in that bed. It's just insane.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that really is. I got a question for you, Christy. Like, if somebody's, let's say, new to gardening but they're going to get started in a community garden, in addition to whatever gardening tips you might have about just pure gardening, and besides giving them your book, what advice would you say to somebody who's just coming into community gardening? It's like, what are the things they should really know about before saying yes to that or committing to that kind of thing?
Yeah. One of the things that's really important is to get to know your neighbors so that they can water for you when you go on vacation.
There you go.
This is important.
This is important. I actually have to go over and water mine and my neighbor's plot this morning because she's out of town. And we actually we were friends before this, but she got a plot and it happened to be next to me. And years ago, and we alternate watering so we don't have to go all the time.
Cool.
So it's nice to know your neighbors. It's also nice, of course, for sharing, because if you've got 1,000, whatevers, my neighbor has blackberries growing right now. She said, pick blackberries while you water. Great. I will absolutely do that. Thank you so much. And being able to share produce between plots is great. Also, it's really important to know the rules and regulations of your particular community garden, because that can that can make or break your experience in a community garden.
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot in the book. Lizzie's big on the rules and regs, right?
Yes, she is. She is the rule enforcer, and that plays into how she walks through life as well.
Yes. I love it. Again, too, that's just, again, the whole idea of all these great characters and these great people, which I think is, just really, is the community garden experience, and as I read these characters or these situations in this book, it really takes me back to my experiences with the different characters in my community garden. And I think that's really kind of fun, though, too, is that through your book you get that experience, too, if you don't have a community garden you can go to. But yeah, I definitely highly encourage people to get in and join in on that sort of thing, because it is really kind of fun. And you could almost write a book almost in any community garden, I think, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I did it because I hadn't seen one yet. So
yeah.
And another tip, if you're going to join a community garden, get on the waiting list right away, because most community gardens have a waiting list for I think for a period of time, for maybe a decade or more. The waiting list was more than 500 people long for my community garden. Yeah. And it would take 5 or 6 years to get in. When I joined 25 years ago or so, it was an 8-month waiting period, and that was great. So you need to get on the list and then forget about it. And then someday you get that magic contact, phone call, email, whatever.
Right.
And jump on it and don't miss the chance.
Yeah. Don't let it pass you by, for sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, and I suppose, with waiting lists that long too, then maybe it might be a good idea to get some people together on that waiting list and go find another spot down the road or somewhere nearby and maybe start up another one too,
Yeah, there is a document out there that I refer people to often. It's written by Rachel Searles. She's part of the Master Gardener community here in Los Angeles, and she published an official how to start a community garden document that people can utilize to approach their either landowners or city or county or community, city councils to make this happen, because it's possible. There's a lot of open land out there.
Yeah.
Like I said, churches are, places that aren't being utilized. You can do that. Even in empty
unused
lots.
Space. You see unused space, find out who owns it. Is it a city property? Is it, business property? Go to a church, all that sort of stuff. There are so many different kind of little angles to go after different pieces of unused land. And it's definitely highly encouraged. We could always use more community gardens, and especially places, again, too, with high waiting lists. There's definitely a demand for it then. So, definitely get out there and try doing that. Another book too I can recommend for people, we had as a guest last year, Lamanda Joy put out a book called How to Start a Community Garden as well too. So there's some resources out there for people to get out and get one started. If it's needed in your area, definitely do it. It would be a fun adventure. I found it fun getting the one started that we did here down at Union Park down the street from me. I didn't have to do any of the official paperwork stuff. I was kind of thankful there were other people to do some of that stuff with the city and everything. But being a part of building that up and getting that started and seeing all the people coming in and starting their plots and helping them out and doing all that stuff is just a really, really wonderful experience.
I would also mention American Community Gardening Association. I did some work for them back.
Okay, there you
go. And that was fun to work with them. And one of the things that I was really impressed with about them is that a lot of their community gardening stuff is really about empowerment. And it's about activism, and that's going to lead me to another question. But it was more about community organizing than it was about gardening. So that was impressive, because obviously the relationships, as you say, are really the glue of what's going on here. But without giving the plot away, there is some vulnerability to the land, right? And I've seen that a lot in urban agriculture, not just in community garden setup, but with other small scale urban agriculturists. They'll set up on a vacant lot. then 3 or 4 years go by, and then it's all of a sudden it's like, oh, real estate values are going up in that area. Get out of here, and we're putting up a building. So, you know, maybe you could speak a little bit to that, your experience with that, your experience of, you know, getting politically active to protect land. Maybe what is the current state of your community garden, any of that stuff?
Sure. So there are a lot of vulnerabilities with borrowed land, and that is a thing. So whether you're renting it from someone who owns the land, or it's like our garden, which is under the jurisdiction of Rec and Parks, and owned by the Department of Water and Power, those there are, to some degree, we're in better shape because it's owned by Department of Water and Power, because they have a mandate to allow a certain amount or certain percentage of the land that they own as community, either gardens or parks, city parks. Yeah. So we're technically a city park. Right. And that protects us a little bit. But if at any time they decide they need to sell off the land, that's something that they can do. And so there's an organization here in LA called the Neighborhood Land Trust, or Los Angeles Neighborhood Land Trust. And there may be a replicate of that in other states and cities. And those are the people who have the legal knowledge to help people secure vacant land and help find the owners of things. They have access to that kind of information. And that's where I help, kind of recommend the people seek that entity out in your area, wherever that is, to try and secure it. But I think the fact of the matter is, unless you own the land, you're vulnerable. And so you treat gardening as, well, you treat the land as you would any gardening experience, that it is transitory and temporary and everything changes. So you do the best you can with what you have at the time.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And again too, sometimes, you gotta kind of fight for something if you want to keep it. And I think that's really kind of, I think, a really good, big central theme of the book. And that's kind of something too. I mean, really, again, too, you bring in a community together in order to do something. So it just really shows that real strong community engagement that you can get through bringing people together, and gardens are a great place to be able to do that. So let's talk just a little bit more about the book. Anything more you want to literally just kind of let us know about, something that maybe we might haven't mentioned so far yet, something that you might
is this a good time to talk about the sequel?
Well, we can dig even into that for sure, or definitely.
So when I wrote Garden Variety, when I started telling people what it was about, I'd say, I've written a novel that's set in a community garden. The first thing every single person would say is, who gets murdered? I was like, nobody gets murdered. What is that? Because I guess there is that kind of cliche that there's always, if there's a garden, there must be a murder. So I decided to write the second one to have a murder. Now I'm not calling it a mystery, because there are a lot of genre fiction. There's a lot of genre fiction out there in the mystery category that is mostly thriller or suspense or that kind of thing. And this is not that.
It's not
definitely
that.
Not that. So I don't want people to compare it to that type of genre. So it would fall under the category of cozy mystery, which is sort of like a mystery murder light, where you don't see any graphic violence or that kind of thing. So it's for people who don't want to subject themselves to that kind of stimulus. So, but
that's great.
Lizzie's back.
Everyone's
in the garden. Everyone from last season is back. Given a couple of everyone's back. And there are some new characters who are coming in to diversify the mix a little bit. Yeah. And it's gonna be fun. Each of the characters has their own story arc. They're having to face issues and work through them. There are more issues with what happens at the garden itself. So the garden itself is threatened. And
again, that poor garden.
Not in the same way, in a different way. and I think there's more garden lessons peppered throughout, so it's going to be fun.
It's going to be exciting. How do you, okay, you're a gardener. Enoch and I are gardeners. We know what the lifestyle is like. We know what the commitment is like. Where do you find the time to write? How do you carve out the time to do this?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm a little bit insane. That's true. So I'm running the garden business, and usually when I'm writing a book, I have to compartmentalize. It helps to be an introvert, so I don't need to go out and do things very much, but I do need to shut my brain off at the end of the day. But what I usually do is I get up and I work on my business, Garden Nerd, for the first half of the day until lunch. And then after lunch, I switch gears, if I can, to the book and work on that until it's time to make dinner. And then after that, I'm usually fried and I need to watch a movie. So I do that.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Pick up from the book that you're a big movie buff. If in that way you identify with Lizzie, 45 movies in 2 weeks. Was that a real thing that you did?
I think personally, I've only done like 15 movies when I was working for someone else, and I would do a full day and then come home and just back-to-back movies all night, in a week or so. But I was instructed to make it a little more, what's the word? Exaggerate a little bit so that it would seem like an achievement.
Stuck
for Lizzie. Yeah.
There you go. I love that too. I'm a big movie buff myself. I love movie television series, those sort of things. I love streaming nowadays because of that. But I'm a busy person myself, and I've had to like really do, compartmentalize everything like you're talking about. I got to do this for this part of the day. I've got to do this for that part of the day. But then it is always great to kind of just end the day with just something, just a movie. Just kind of let everything go. Definitely. That's great.
Yeah. And I think the garden suffers a little bit when I'm working on a book or a new online course or when I'm doing a project, the garden suffers a little bit, but I try and get it as efficient and automated as possible so that it can thrive without me if need be.
Well, just in terms of the daily rhythm too, there's something to that. Get out of the most intense UV rays during the later part of the day and the heat. So sometimes I find I save some invoicing or whatever for the afternoon too, because it's like, my God, I'm getting beaten up out there. I got to take some shelter.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. And it's kind of, I certainly go out into the garden to solve problems and get ideas. So if I'm stuck on a phrase or a story plot line, I just walk out through the garden, like, give me the answers, plants, tell me what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. And it usually the answers come in the garden.
That's awesome.
That is great. I love it. I love it. So again, too, talking about the sequel, is there kind of a timeline? I'm sure it's probably a lot different than the first one because now you're kind of already established, as we talked about.
Yeah. So my plan is after this conversation, I'm sending it back to my editor. She's going to be doing line edits for the next couple of weeks. And I am hoping I'm supposed to send it to my agent at the end of summer. And so at that point, I'm hoping she can start shopping it around. And my hope is to have a book deal by the end of this year. Now, fiction works very, very slowly. Nonfiction, I've written books in 3 months and then it's come out the following spring.
Yeah.
Fiction, they usually put you on a 2-year timeline. So I'm hoping that because it's a sequel, they might want to put it out faster because it's already been a few years since Garden Variety came out. But I have no control over that whatsoever. So you may not see it until 2026. Yikes.
Oh, wow. Yikes.
But the hope is that it would happen sooner. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, you can always get to work on the third if you're waiting, right?
I know. And that's the plan, would be to start working on the next one right away. But I have to take a break after this and work on some other stuff that has been clawing at me from the wings.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, for us project heavy people, there's always something that's wanting our time for sure.
Yeah.
And then the most important, as you mentioned too, is the garden. And sometimes they can suffer through some of that stuff.
Yep, for sure. So I'm looking forward to getting my hands back in the dirt to get some more stuff planted when I send this off.
Awesome.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Well, you know, I do want to kind of also give you an opportunity to maybe talk just a little bit more about some of your other books too, because you know, as an author, you've got a couple of other things. I mean, you delved into fiction and gave us this really awesome story, but you also did kind of mention a little bit earlier, you know, you've done these other books, Gardening for Geeks and others. You want to talk just a little bit about those too?
I appreciate the opportunity. I have 2 other nonfiction books. Gardening for Geeks is small space gardening for vegetables, and Grow Your Own Mini Fruit Garden is small space gardening for fruit trees and berries. And if you haven't figured it out by now, I specialize in small space gardening, biointensive gardening, growing a lot of stuff in a small space. Because when I did start gardening, I had a balcony, and then I got a patio, and then I got that community garden plot. And for years, that's all I ever had. And now I have a yard, but I'm still dealing with sunlight and neighbors and exposure and that kind of stuff. And so I'm trying to make the goal is to make your garden as efficient as possible and get the most out of it. And so that's what those 2 books do. I do have a digital compendium of the first 10 years of the Garden Nerd Tip of the Week podcast. And that's on Kindle Direct Publishing. So that's a quick kind of seasonal guide of growing tips depending on what season it is. Yeah, and those are the books. And news, Gardening for Geeks is in the process of being rebranded and re-released next year. It's going to come out in 2025 in spring under a new title, which we're still figuring out the title, because I gave them a title that they love, except that another book since I gave them that title has come out with that title.
Oh my God.
Oh no.
They have to come up with a subtitle that makes it different, I guess, or something like that. But it's going to be a little reorganization of the content in Gardening for Geeks, and a new title. And so that's going to come out next year for fresh new gardeners out there everywhere.
Are they trying to geekify you?
They're de-geekifying me a little bit because, the title Gardening for Geeks can be off-putting, I am told. And I didn't come up with that title. It was given to me, and I didn't really.
I was going to say, wouldn't it have been more appropriate Garden Nerd, right?
Yes,
Geeks,
I wanted it to be called the Garden Nerd's Handbook, but they, that never happened. Because search terms lead the marketing campaign, and that's where they start. So I'm looking forward to having it have a different title next year. And we're reorganizing the content into gardening information up front and then DIY stuff in the back. So it's a fresh look for that book. I'm looking forward to it.
It's like reorganizing your sock drawer or something. It's kind of always fun to do it. Just give it a fresh update.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's coming next year, and then hopefully in the year after that, I'll have a new novel out. We'll see.
Right on. Things will be just right lined up then.
That's your lips to God's ears.
That's a nice sequence. That's a great sequence. So may it be so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right on. And not only that too, though, I mean, you're an author, you do all of that, but one of our favorite things here on YouTube is YouTube, right? And you have a great YouTube channel, Garden Nerd, as well too. So also I've got links as well too down below in the description if you want to check out Christy and Garden Nerd and all of that. Definitely do that for sure. How about you, Mark? You got some more questions for Christy at all here as we finish up today?
Heard so many fascinating things. One is just going back over the book and gleaning some more stuff from it. You did manage to pack in some great tips there, and I want to go back and review those. I guess the one thing was, like, you talked a little bit about the struggle between kind of too information heavy, then needing to back off of that. What kind of, I guess some of that stuff you're going to include in the second book. So maybe I don't want to have you give away too much, but is there wish you could have put in this book, but maybe you got your wings clipped a little bit?
I feel like it was a natural process of eliminating things. There were before I had written Gardening for Geeks, I had so much more to say on that front, but then I got it all out of my system when I wrote Gardening for Geeks. So then it just felt like, oh yeah, we don't need this. We don't need this. And I just took out a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't necessary for moving the story forward. Right. So I didn't feel like I got my wings clipped really in any way. There were some things where I needed to shift the focus of it so that it was more story driven rather than just an info dump. And that was just like learning the craft of writing. Right.
Right.
But I think you're right. I have peppered the second book with garden tips as well. And some of them are a little more sophisticated. So, if you were, looking for more information about why things might not be working for you in your garden, you're going to find that in the second one.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it already.
Yeah. Just really great too. Looking forward to that. I love all of the nice scoops that we're getting here on the next book too, because I'm telling you, like I said, I just really love this book. I was so glad and so fortunate to be able to come along to find it and to read it. And then again, too, thought it would just be one of those great additions, the way for us to kind of get this book club kind of started in our first few books was to introduce this fictional tale in this community garden and all of your wonderful characters there.
Hey, Enoch, we got to see if we actually got an authentic scoop, because I heard about the second book on another interview you did. But have you told anyone about the third book yet publicly? Is this, do we have a true scoop there?
That might be a true scoop. I think I've told people in person, but yeah. And don't tell my agent. Because when I met her and I first talked to her about this, I said, so here's my plan. I want to do 3 books in a trilogy cross genre. And she's like, let's not talk about that. Because I joke, and my husband says I shouldn't say this, but I joke that I want to be completely unmarketable. And that's what, that's really what I'm setting myself up for. But I don't care. It's like, it's what I envision.
That's right. And sometimes you got to put it out there, right?
Yeah. And I like to do things that nobody's done before. So I'm going to do this. This is how it's going to be. Yeah.
But we can tell all our listeners, you heard it
here first.
You heard it here first.
Fantasy element. That you heard it here first.
Yeah.
Third book, fantasy element. Also, maybe let's talk about some TV series.
I so need.
I love it. I love it. No, because I think for sure, I really believe. I think I believe just as much in this book as well too, and the whole story and the idea. I think it's wonderful. As I've said, it's just a really great way to pack in some great gardening tips, as we've talked about, into a great story with awesome characters, and especially for those of us, who do love movies and stories and TV shows and things like that. This book really kind of presents that for us garden lovers and garden nerds, to be more correct, right? To to really enjoy a book, sit back in an afternoon in your garden space and read a story about something really fun going on in a garden. I think Garden Variety is awesome. I suggest it to everybody. Go out and get yourself a copy of this wonderful, wonderful book. And also definitely, like I said, links down below. Check out Garden Nerd from Christy Wilhelmi. Thank you so much, Christy, today for being a part of our monthly book club with this really great book.
Thanks. Great conversation.
Thank you. I enjoyed being here.
Awesome. Thanks, Christy. And we'll have to have you back again too to talk maybe about some community gardens or something too, because I want to talk more about that as well too, because I think those are just really important, really awesome.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you.
See you later.
Let's Get Growing is sponsored by IV Organic.
Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with IV Organics, where we grow cool plants, and author, Saving the World with the Home Garden. IV Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils that protect your plants, not just from the summer heat as well as winter cold, but also protects your plants from damaging insects and rodents. The oils in the product include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils are natural insect and rodent repellent oils, which are encapsulated by the base powder, offering your plants months of protection at a time. 1 application per year will suffice for protection against damaging summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but if the target is pest, application as much as 2 to 3 times a year may be necessary.
All right, Mark.
Oh,
How
God.
about that? Wasn't that fun or what, huh?
You know, Enoch, I'm detecting a pattern that if we invite articulate, accomplished people on our show, we don't actually have to do too much. They do all the talking. It's really
That's great, isn't it?
We can just kind of sit back and enjoy the ride, right?
We just kind of guide it along a little bit, and then just get to sit, like you said, sit back and enjoy just some great conversation. Christy is just really awesome, and just like I said, I really enjoy this book. I mean, again, too, we are book fans. We books in general, but we're also garden nerds like Christy, and we love our gardening books as well too. And that's why this is such a perfect, great thing for us to be doing here, this monthly book club. And how great is it again to be able to have just awesome authors like Christy, and like we've mentioned before, we've already had 2 before with Ellen and Tony from Simplify Gardening. Some really great ones, and just like I said, just another one again today. So awesome.
Well, the illusion of a book is that you take it in your hands and you read it, and it's an object and such, but you forget that there is a real human being behind all this who suffered, made sacrifices, experienced highs and lows in the process, went through all these big life events while they were trying to get this book out, and somehow, spite of all that, had bills to pay, blah, 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 had their kids attend to, or their parents attend to, or their dog attend to, or whatever. Things of life. Somehow they managed to wind their way through life and still get this book out into the world, which is just awesome.
It's so great. Definitely. And I'm running out of words to say here. So many compliments and all of that, but books in general are, like I said, are just a really great way for us to be able to learn more about growing and gardening. And like you said, there's just so many great authors doing some things. And it's one thing to be able to do a book club, a book club in general, if you're getting together locally or all of that, we're reading the book and then we're getting in a circle and we're all talking about it and sharing our different takes on different things in the book. This book club's just that a little bit different, where, we're getting together here on a live stream. You get to join with us in the conversation, but then we have this awesome gardener with us to really give us that detail about the book that we wouldn't get otherwise.
Now, Enoch, we're 3 for 3. What are the chances that you think we're going to have another awesome gardener on our 4th month?
Oh my gosh, I don't know how. I'm gonna. All right. I guess we'll have to jump right into it, Mark. I know you're anxious too. And I'm just going to kind of preface this from saying this too. And I'll kind of give a really quick backstory as we move into our next gardening book. Again, thank you so much to Christy Wilhelmi for being our June Book of the Month Club selection. Garden Variety, so awesome. I really encourage you all to get out there, get yourself a copy of that book, read it. You're going to enjoy it. And then definitely, like I said, there's a link down below to Christy's Garden Nerd channel. Go and check out one of her videos. Drop a comment in there. Let her know that you saw her here on the Let's Get Growing show. Let her know that you saw her or have read her book, all that sort of stuff. Go do that and help support her in such a great book and all of that. Now, our next book for July is introducing an author in a book that is just really kind of, this is something in regionally, maybe more so, we are Pacific Northwest garden nerds. We've grown up here in the Pacific Northwest, and anybody from the Pacific Northwest knows next month's author. I mean, he is just a special person in the Pacific Northwest. And I know people maybe outside in other places have gotten to know this author as well too, because he's a great personality. He's gotten to do talks, all over the place, even internationally, that sort of thing. I think even John Oliver one night on his This Week Tonight show featured a little clip of I think it was something like if you were as happy about a flower as Cisco Morris is, You know what I mean? And then did this little clip. I think I'm gonna have to find that and maybe show that on our show with him this next week, because our next author is the great, the best, funniest. I mean, again, too, we've got to go see this guy a couple of times now at the Northwest Flower and Garden Show in Seattle, and he packs a room full.
Hundreds of people come to see him at each talk.
Standing room.
Yeah.
In these rooms, a huge auditorium, standing room, packed full of people. And I said this, I think the first time we went and saw him, it was like, you think you're going to go to a gardening talk to hear about gardening lessons from a professional master gardener, and you end up at a comedy show. You're laughing and rolling all over the place. This guy's got so many funny little anecdotes from his garden. It's just amazing. He's just a great personality.
Yeah, and Cisco's famous line is he'll have 200 slides with all different plants, and each time he arrives at the next one, he'll be like, "Now this is my favorite plant."
Yeah.
So you just all the 100 ones. You know, no, really, this one is my favorite. It's like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. And then the next one he shows you. Now I know I said the last one's my favorite, but this one is my favorite.
Well,
then,
yeah, you haven't said the title yet, right?
Yeah. The title.
But I've been reading.
Oh la la.
After dinner. Well, it's a series of short vignettes that are, you know, not unlike Garden Variety. There's some, it's not fiction, but there's often a storyline about something that's actually happened to him in life. And then, of course, you know, some substantial gardening wisdom that's in each.
Yeah.
But they're so entertaining. I mean, this is like our after dinner reading. We'll pick up one story and I'll read it out loud to my wife, Janine, and we're both laughing and grinning and learning at the same time.
Yeah, and you know, similar kind of like as we were talking with Christy about in her book, and her intentions of the book was to tell garden lessons through stories. And she just created a fictional story about it. Cisco teaches us garden lessons and tells us garden lessons through these funny stories that he tells through his own experiences.
Stuff. Yeah, I mean, he and his wife, God,
it's so great. And viewers of our show too, you might have been, and you can also go back and check out. Cisco was a guest on our show last year as well too, just like Christy Wilhelmi was. I was just so fortunate. And up to Marc last week, Marc Valencia, that we had as a guest from Self-Sufficient Me last week, I think Cisco was probably my biggest show, I think, where I was just like, oh, this is like a big person. Because like I said, again, too, we are from the Pacific Northwest. I've pretty much grown up with Cisco Morris as a personality, you know, through our local news. He does the news, gardening segments and stuff. He had a really cool, and I'm a radio nerd too, so I loved listening to like weekend radio shows. And his was one, you know, his was a real prominent weekend radio call-in gardening show in the Seattle area. But yeah, so, and again too, also right back here, you can see there's this little square right here, and that's just my tribute in the background in the set here for our show to Cisco, and it says "Ooh la la" too right there.
There you go, ooh la la.
Yeah. In fact, I think I have this here. I don't know where it is. Let's see. No, it's this one. It's this one. There we go. That's a little thing I got from one of my favorite podcasts, which is a Pacific Northwest one too, and they talk about Cisco every now and then too. But it's gonna be awesome. I'm so excited about it. Yeah. Again, too, just one of our favorite people, someone that we've both gotten to go see him talk. You know, throughout all of his years of doing different things. And then I thought, you know, if we're doing this book club, and we were lucky enough to get Cisco on the show last year, I was like, you know what, this is what I got to do. This is going to be my treat for Marc for sure. I'm going to make sure I get Cisco back on the show so that we could get a good opportunity for Marc to have a great part of a conversation we're going to have with him this next month, and talking about the book Ooh La La.
I can't wait.
Cisco Morris.
And, you know, he has another book called Ask Cisco, which is great. That's really practical. And I think he sneaks a little story or two in there. But mainly it's like a kind of question and answer, almost like as if you were recording one of his radio talk shows where it's like, okay, here's what you do with it. But
I think it's kind of taken from some of those things, right? Whether it's maybe write-ins from, because he also wrote for the newspaper, I think, as well. And
but this is really readable, and you know, like I said, there's just lots of little vignettes, so each one is 3 or 4 pages. So it's the perfect, like, this book is a great, in the course of a month, if you get this book now and start reading it, it's an episode a day kind of thing. It's a really great way to just like pick it up real quick. You read for 10 minutes, you're done that little chapter. It's funny, it's great, it's inspiring, etc., etc.
Excellent. Yeah, let's see. Jay says Cisco has a very engaging and entertaining manner that draws viewers to his shows. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll tell you, if you haven't met or even know Cisco and you can get an idea of this, all you got to do is just go type in Cisco Morris right here in YouTube, and you'll find some videos of him and some of his news appearances and different things, and you'll know exactly what we're talking about. And if you just go watch one of those things, I'll tell you what, you're going to want to be back here for the 3rd Sunday next month so that you can see him here on the show too, because that's going to be really, really fun and awesome. And also, one of the things that we like to do each and every month as we're introducing our new book of the month is to give away a copy to one of our viewers. Now, this is, again, as I want to mention too, this is really limited to our US viewers, unless, of course, if you are international and wanted to pay for the international shipping, you too can include yourself into our little giveaway that we're going to do here. And let's see here. So what we're going to be doing is, just like we did the previous 2 months, let me put this up here for everybody. We're going to have you right now in the comments section, just type in #book club. And again, for the US there. And then also, again, too, if you've won a book before, then maybe, you know, as well, you know, that sort of thing. I know we've given away a few, what is it, 3 books now.
3 books, yeah.
Yeah. So if you maybe won one before, then maybe we'll give someone else a chance, that sort of thing. And then US, or if you want to pay for international shipping. So definitely jump into the comments there. We'll give you a few minutes, everybody, to put in #book club there, and then we'll draw one of those up here and get out a free copy of Ooh La La by Cisco Morris for our next book of the month club.
You know, so Enoch, I'm going to, while we're waiting for people to enter their info, I'm going to say this about the book of the month club. Being, for myself, I'm just going to share this for myself, that just doing this book club and committing to it has already been so helpful, because I am making my way through books that, you know, it's the busy time of the year. I might not be turning to too many books right now. I might be just saying, oh, I'm too tired or whatever. But just having the commitment, I find, is and knowing that, okay, I mean, obviously we're leading the discussion, so we sort of have to be on top of things, but still, it's wonderful motivation. It's like you create the structure for yourself to then improve yourself in ways that you might not if you didn't have the structure. So for me, it's a real invitation in to this constant process of like, hey, every month I'm going to be looking at something about gardening. I'm going to be looking at some really different and diverse titles and kind of the different stacks of books that we've each brought to the table. And, you know, some of the recommendations that we're getting from viewers and other folks, it's just going to build on itself. And it's just a wonderful way of staying current, and the conversations too. I mean, what we just learned with Christy, what we've learned from Tony and Ellen, it's beyond the book. Obviously, you get what's in the book, and then you get beyond, and appreciating it so much. I just want to say that to you, and to entice other people who may be seeing this for the first time. Join us. Your gardening is going to improve because you're going to be exposing yourself to so much more.
Yeah. Expose yourself to some really great inspiration, you know, right from the authors themselves, you know, as I was mentioning just a little bit before. It's just really great, you know, that we you know, through this through our channel and our show here, we're capable of doing just a little bit, you know, kind of a super book club almost, if you will. You know, is just we get the book, we get that month to kind of go over it and read it. So like I said, encourage everybody to go out and get yourself a copy of Ooh La La, Cisco Morris's book. But even if you don't have a copy, mind you, even if you don't read it too, this isn't, you know, it's not necessary to actually have to read the book, but because that's really kind of a part of that big bonus of what our book club is. You know, unlike that ordinary book club where you get together with people and talk about the book, you know, we're bringing the author here to just dig into the book a little bit more and to even get some little bit more insights and things that we wouldn't normally get through a regular type of book club.
That's a great point. I mean, I think reading the book might sometimes be the after effect of the program. You don't have to have read it first. All you need to do is show up, listen to the author, listen to the topic, and that may be the stimulus for you to go and get the book and say, wow, this is really interesting, or this is something I'm actually, I never realized, say, for example, like a book of fiction could be so engaging about gardening and community gardening. I'm going to go and get that book, Garden Variety, now, and I'm going to read it. So it's unlike, this is not like a class where you're under the, you know, the professor, the seminar where you'll be like, all right, you got to say something witty now, or, you know, you got to make sure about your summary. No, you can just show up. It's like being able to sit in the back of class and listen in. And then if it's good, you'll be like, all right, I really want to go read that book now. So it's a whole different approach. Of course, you can read the book before too. That's a good idea too.
Yeah, exactly. Either way, though, when it comes down to it.
Whatever.
And I like that idea that it's almost kind of like maybe you're interested in the book, but you don't, you know, you're not quite sure. But hey, you can watch our book club here, you know, like checking out today's interview with Christy Wilhelmi, and then, you know, learn just a little bit more about it, and then from there you kind of got a book review in a way, and now that's going to give you an enticement to go out there and then go get that book and enjoy it yourself.
We do the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah. Exactly. So, yep. And let's see. Oh yeah, and Jersey Girl says, I love books. And yeah, that's exactly what it's about, man. It's about our love for books. It's also about keeping books kind of alive, though, too, in a modern social media world we live in, too. You know, there's just, you know, our devices and things like that, you know, so many other things. And I think a lot of people, you know, it's good to kind of go back to the idea that we got books we can read. We got these things we can put into our hands. And as I kind of mentioned there too, you know, with the fun of this last book we read was, you know, it's a, you know, fictional tale and a story. You can kind of go escape in your garden with this book and this, you know, this tangible thing, you know, and go into your garden and just kind of escape into the story or the book or any other type of book as well too, you know, and read and learn right from the pages.
And, you know, I'm a real circler and underliner, note taker in the margins and all, even in the fiction book. I mean, I was like circling all kinds of stuff and making notes. And I just like, part of the book group is an excuse to just, buy the book. And then I'm just going to kind of take possession of it. I'm a big supporter of the public library too. That's a great way to get your books and loaning from friends. But I also like, it's kind of thrilling to get a book and then it becomes your own when you're making the marginal notes and the underlines. And it's really a way to own it too. So 3 cheers for the physicality of a real book here. Hip, hip, hooray. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's keep those going. And again, Jade has mentioned there in the comments, it's last chance real quick, hashtag book club. I know we got some people in here. We got to have some more US folks in our audience real quick. Just jump in there real quick. Just give yourself a chance to win this new book. Hashtag book club. And again, too, Ooh La La by Cisco Morris. Again, we're really looking forward to this and looking forward to this next month's book club, which will be this next July. Let me double check just to make sure we're doing this. July 21st.
Yep,
21. July 21st will be the third Sunday of next month, July, and that's when we'll get into this great book, Ooh La La.
Fun. It's a fun read. It's an easy read. You know, I mean, it's not going to be taxing. You're going to be laughing the whole way through, laughing while learning. I mean, that's a powerful way to go. But literally, you know, you could knock this off probably in an afternoon or two if you really wanted. If you don't want to take a slow approach. So it's not a big lift for July. We know a great vacay book, man. If you're going somewhere and you got a little time to read, an airplane time on a beach or in a cabin somewhere, just get this book and just join us July 21st.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun for me too, man. You know, I'm really excited about because I just actually got my copy just the other day. So it just came in, so I'm really excited about digging into it and getting into it. I did read the Ask Cisco book last year before he came in on the show and all that. So it's gonna be really exciting to get into this and just really enjoy some of these really fun and funny stories. So really gonna be great. So all right, everybody, we've got a few hashtags in the comments. So jump in real quick if you haven't already. But let's see here. Let me see if we can't get this on here right. Wow, there we are, Mark. It's our StreamYard giveaway tool. Let's see here. This is going to tell us who won the book. So we are looking right now. Let me double check here. Okay, Serena jumped in there. Perfect. All right, so here we go. I guess we got one of just a few people here, but let's draw a winner. Oh, Serena, there you go. I was gonna say if it's Jay, we're gonna have to draw again, but Serena, that's great. You're our winner of our book.
Congratulations.
Awesome. Congratulations, Serena. And I hope you enjoy the book. Now, all you got to do is send me your shipping information to letsgetgrowing@mail.com. That's mail.com, not gmail.com, mail.com. And send me your mailing address, and we'll get you a copy of Cisco's Ooh La La out for you. Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. Excellent. So that's great, Serena. Congratulations.
Yeah, way to go. Where's Serena coming from? Where is she gardening?
Yeah, let's see here. That's a good question. Maybe Serena can jump in the comments there and let us know where she's gardening from.
Yeah, are you a Northwest gardener, Serena? Or are you coming from another region?
All right. We got a bunch of congratulations. There we go. Right on. Excellent. Yeah, I love that part. I love the fact that we can just, do a little giveaway and give one of these books away and get that out there too. I think that was a fun little addition to what we're doing here with the book club. So that's awesome.
I like your title for it, Enoch. Super Book Club. There's like, it's like it's like over and above with we got the free books being given out. We got the author coming on. It's like, all right, where else do you get that? I don't know.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's see here. Maybe Serena will drop that in there. But yeah, anyways, that's just another great wrap up, another great monthly book club here, Mark. I mean, it's just really amazing again, too. And I really appreciate those comments that you made about the book club and how it's been inspiring for you as well, too. I feel exactly the same. I think this has been a great adventure. And again, too, it's just can't think of anybody better to do this with than yourself, Mark, because you've just been such a great friend and a great person to me and my channel over the years. And your contributions to our show and this whole idea have been tremendous. And it's just really great to be able to take on this adventure and go on it with you. And just look forward to so much more now. We got so much more lined. We even got some other great ones lined up that we're even working on too, coming up as well too. So I can't wait for people to hear about some of those books too.
It's kind of like Christy holding up that manuscript. She knows what's coming in the second book because she's already got it ready. And it's like we're thinking a few months ahead also, and to be like, wait till these guys see what we have for like September. It's going to be so great.
Excellent. Yeah. Right on. Okay, Mark. Well, hold on a minute there. I'm going to finish up the show there, and we'll be again back, everybody, again, third Sunday of the month for next month's book club featuring Ooh La La. Cisco Morris will be here with us live. So definitely here to join with us to have a great, another fun conversation with this awesome author. And again, too, you want to make sure you join with us again, also because you just saw it's a great opportunity to get yourself a free book when we announce next month's book as well.
Hey, Enoch, you know what we'll be able to say to Cisco next month? You're our favorite book author so far.
Yes. Oh, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be so great.
After that, you're our favorite book guest so far.
That's right. That's right.
We'll pull a real Cisco right on him.
Right on.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks again to Christy. Great conversation partner, great book. And I really enjoy talking with you each time. So it's a lot of fun for me. I'll hang out. We'll chat. We'll debrief after. Thank you, Enoch.
You got it, Mark. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining with us here today for this month's monthly book club. I mean, again, I'm telling you, man, there are tons and tons of people out there who are truly missing out right now because this is such a wonderful, fun show we've got going on here on Let's Get Growing. I mean, look at these great conversations. Look at what we get to do each and every week. And those of you who are joining with us each and every week are man, I can't even thank you all so much for all that you do coming here and contributing to our conversation and being a part of this show. It's just really amazing. We're having so much fun. Let's get people, on here. Let's share this out to everybody we can, and let's make sure we get the word out about what we've got growing on here on Let's Get Growing. We've got all of our great guests on our Saturday show and our Sunday show. Remember, it's Saturday and Sunday. This is a weekend show, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Urban Gardener channel on YouTube. And we are just having so much fun here on the show this year. So many awesome guests that we've gotten to have over these weeks that we've been doing this show for this season. And again, too, it's just great to have you all along with me as well, too, for all of this great fun that we get to have here on Let's Get Growing. And if you are here again, too, click that like button, hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. Definitely subscribe to the channel and definitely hit that bell notification. The bell notification will let you know of our upcoming videos and episodes. And looks like, just to answer Mark's question we had earlier here, Serena says that she's from Norman, Oklahoma. Awesome. Well, that's great. Great. So again, congratulations to Serena for winning our book. And let's see here. Rick says thank you to Mark. Thank you to everyone. Jersey Girl says happy Father's Day, and definitely happy Father's Day to everybody out there. Again, a real special day for all of you great fathers out there. And I hope you all have a special day, not just with your family, but hey, we're a garden show. I hope you get some time in your garden and you get to spend some time and all of that too. So excellent. Rick says bye till next week. Awesome. It's so great again to have all of you here with me, and again too, just a really special experience that we get to have here on this show each and every week. So make sure you get the word out there and let them know about all of our all that fun that we're having. Like I said, I mean, yesterday's show, really great show again too. We had with us Leo Carver, from author of the book Growing Consciousness. That was just a really great conversation. We got to meet Paul Chad Hughes of Backyard Garden Pro. Last week we had on the show Mark Valencia from Self-Sufficient Me, and we were following Sean and Allison McManus of Spoken Garden. And then also next week, I'm not too sure exactly what we're going to be doing with the Sunday edition yet. Some things are kind of up in the air, so I'll just kind of let you all know that a little bit ahead of time for next week. But I will be here. I will be here no matter what next Sunday for sure. But hopefully we'll get together and have a great roundtable is the idea, and have a fun gardening discussion with some really great guests for next Sunday. So we'll see all of you there for that show. And then next Saturday, we're going to finally get back around to, and hopefully we don't have any technical difficulties like we had last time when I tried to air this pre-recorded interview I got to do with Joe Lample from the award-winning PBS series Growing a Greener World. Joe is just a great gardener, sharing his experience on PBS and public television for many years, and it was just a really fun conversation. So next Saturday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern, we'll have Joe Lample for our featured guest, and we'll also get to meet Rebecca from Happy Heart Gardens. So really great. I've been following Rebecca on Instagram for a long time now, so we've been working on trying to get her on the show for a while. So we finally found a date, and we'll have her on and get to meet her on our Are You Following Me segment. So lots and lots of great things to look forward to right here on the Urban Gardener channel on the Let's Get Growing show. And I hope to see all of you in our upcoming shows. I'll see all of you next week.